Welcome back to Unstable TV! And you're through to Irish Couple Reacts. And do stay tuned because this happens every week.
So if you're new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment and hit the bell notification so you don't miss any of these videos. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you! So today we were asked to check out this video by Thomas Sowell, or Sowell, whichever way you pronounce it. And this is facts about slavery that they don't teach in school. Now this is obviously a bit of a controversial topic, so we're just going to give our honest opinion here. If you don't want to watch it or you don't like what we say, feel free to not watch the video or comment down below.
Very big shout out to everyone in the comments section that did suggest this to us. We do appreciate that. And without further ado, we'll jump straight into this video. We're ourselves and you guys. Let's go.
One of the many sad signs of our times is that people are not only playing the race card, they are playing the slavery card, which is supposedly the biggest trump of all. At the so-called Million Man March in Washington, poet Maya Angelou rang all the changes on slavery, at a rally billed as forward-looking and as being about black independence rather than white guilt. Meanwhile, best-selling author Dinesh D'Souza was being denounced in the media for having said that slavery was not a racist institution. First of all, anyone familiar with the history of slavery around the world knows that its origins go back thousands of years and that slaves and slave owners were very often of the same race. Those who are ignorant of all this, or who think of slavery in the United States as if it were the only slavery, go ballistic when anyone tells them that this institution was not based on race. Blacks were not enslaved because they were black, but because they were available at the time. Whites enslaved other whites in Europe for centuries before the first black slave was brought to the Western Hemisphere. Only late in history were human beings even capable of crossing an ocean to get millions of other human beings of a different race. In the thousands of years before that, not only did Europeans enslave other Europeans, Asians enslaved other Asians, Africans enslaved other Africans, and the native peoples of the Western Hemisphere enslaved other native peoples of the Western Hemisphere. D'Souza was right. Slavery was not about race. The fact that his critics are ignorant of history is their problem. What was peculiar about the American situation was not just that slaves and slave owners were of different races, but that slavery contradicted the whole philosophy of freedom on which the society was founded.
That's true.
If all men were created equal, as the Declaration of Independence said, then blacks had to be depicted as less than men. While the antebellum South produced a huge volume of apologetic literature trying to justify slavery on racist grounds, no such justification was considered necessary in vast reaches of the world and over vast expanses of time. In most parts of the world, people saw nothing wrong with slavery. Strange as that seems to us today, 100 years ago, only Western civilization saw anything wrong with slavery, and 200 years ago, only a minority in the West thought it was wrong. Of all the tragic facts about the history of slavery, the most astonishing to an American today is that, although slavery was a worldwide institution for thousands of years, nowhere in the world was slavery a controversial issue prior to the 18th century. People of every race and color were enslaved, and enslaved others. White people were still being bought and sold as slaves in the Ottoman Empire, decades after American blacks were freed. Everyone hated the idea of being a slave, but few had any qualms about enslaving others. Slavery was just not an issue, not even among intellectuals, much less among political leaders, until the 18th century, and then it was an issue only in Western civilization. Among those who turned against slavery in the 18th century were George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Patrick Henry, and other American leaders. You could research all of 18th century Africa or Asia or the Middle East without finding any comparable rejection of slavery there. But who is singled out for scathing criticism today? American leaders of the 18th century. Those who talk about slavery as if it were just the enslavement of blacks by whites ignore not only how widespread this institution was and how far back in history it went, They also ignore how recently slavery continued to exist outside of Western civilization. While slavery was destroyed in the West during the 19th century, the struggle to end slavery elsewhere continued well into the 20th century, and pockets of slavery still exist to this moment in Africa. But there is scarcely a peep about it from black leaders in America who thunder about slavery in the past. If slavery were the real issue, then slavery among flesh and blood human beings alive today would arouse far more outcry than past slavery among people who are long dead. The difference is that past slavery can be cashed in for political benefits today, while slavery in North Africa only distracts from these political goals. Worse yet, talking about slavery in Africa would undermine the whole picture of unique white guilt, requiring unending reparations. While the Western world was just as guilty as other civilizations when it came to enslaving people for thousands of years, it was unique only in finally deciding that the whole institution was immoral and should be ended. But this conclusion was by no means universal even in the Western world, however obvious it may seem to us today. Thousands of free blacks owned slaves in the antebellum South, and years after the Emancipation Proclamation in the United States, whites as well as blacks were still being bought and sold as slaves in North Africa and the Middle East. Anyone who wants reparations based on history will have to gerrymander history very carefully. Otherwise, practically everybody would owe reparations to practically everybody else.
First off, a very big shout out to the original content creator. Do make sure you go check them out. Give them a like, subscribe and share and all of that good YouTube stuff. Not an easy topic to talk about, of course. It's very hard. But unfortunately, it is America that's getting most of the stick for it.
I didn't even cop that though. Yeah, I never even copped that. Why is it America that's getting so much stick for slavery when it's basically been every country in the world?
I think America's just the easy excuse.
It's like a cop out for everybody else, is it?
Yeah, like it's easy to cash in, like you said, your political chips now.
Yeah.
He said the so-called leaders of freedom today, they haven't got a lot to say about anything else going on in the world.
As everybody knows, unfortunately there is still slaves.
Yep, sure.
And there's still child slaves.
There's lots of sweatshops still going on. How do you think we're using this phone? How do you think everyone else is watching this on their technology?
Mm-hmm. We're being hypocrites just as much as they are.
Yep.
And we know that.
Yeah, we all are. It's horrible. It's disgusting. But like you said, if you want to pick apart one part of history, it's not just racist.
No, it's not.
No.
It was never, and I know a lot of people don't like hearing that, but like slavery was never just one race and that was it. It was literally everything.
He likes to talk about it, and he is right where he said if one person says it's this, another person will basically put their hands over their ears because they don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
He's right. I forgot all about the Ottoman Empire. Forgot all about that.
Yeah.
About that slavery, and not only that, like you said yourself, the Irish have been enslaved.
Yeah.
Like something terrible.
Literally every country in the world has had slaves.
Yep.
And that's not 100%, maybe not every country, but like at least the majority of them have.
Yeah.
And it's been every race, every age, every illness, every disability. It does not matter.
We do want to understand that. Why does America get the most stick?
Mm-hmm.
And he's right, and I never thought about that through the 18th century. Like, they're getting the most stick. The irony of us even speaking on this as everyone talking on the internet with this when we're all using
I know.
sweatshop built goods. That's the truth of it.
We're all hypocrites.
Yeah, we are.
Mm-hmm. I know I am. If I had a major issue with that, we wouldn't be on YouTube now.
Yeah.
So.
Of course, let us know in the comments your points of view on this. Again, we can't stress this enough. We're not condoning slavery.
No, God, no.
We think it's horrible, it's disgusting, but we're over here to learn.
Yeah.
And sometimes learning isn't always, the pretty side of things. You have to go through the ugly truths through history and time. We want to hear what you guys have to say about this. You don't have to be from America.
Anywhere
in the world. Let us know your thoughts.
And again, just to stress, because I have a feeling somebody might say this in the comments, we're not saying racism is not an issue. Racism is an issue everywhere that needs to be sorted and needs to be addressed as well. But this is just specifically about the topic of slavery that we're talking about now.
Yeah, and the history.
Yeah, that's the issue we're talking about.
Yep. And that has been our 2 cents, and we will chop ourselves out.
So as always, you are the beautiful people of YouTube, and we have been Unstable TV.
So drop a comment below and let us know what you thought of this reaction video. And if you have any suggestions for us to do, let us know too.
And as always, we will see you in the next one. Bye.